All right, welcome to part 4. We are going to focus on 5 more scriptures from the Doctrinal Mastery. Here we go. Okay, so now you're past the chocolate cake, and you actually make it to the bishop's office there in the corner. And what you see is you witness this picture. And again, the owls are going to go with you, all right? And so you kind of have this confession with the bishop, not you, but you're actually witnessing this confession. And you see that these owls have been drinking and smoking and doing some things that maybe they shouldn't have been doing. And they're confessing this to the bishop there in the corner office. And this is what the bishop turns around and he says, "Wickedness never was happiness, son," because he's obviously older and he's talking to maybe his son or a young youth. So wickedness never was happiness, son, and he's talking directly to talking directly to them. And so if you can imagine these owls all surrounding you, so it's Alma, and then Alma 41. So Alma 41, wickedness never was happiness, son. All right, now you come to the stake president's office. This is the room, hopefully you know right where it is. And as you open up the stake president's office door, you see that there are 5 doctors, dressed in the doctor outfit, the robe, the little shield thing on the head, and they all have hammers in their hand. And there's a big white rock. So there's 5 of them and the big white rock, and they're all chiseling. And what they are building or chiseling away out of this rock is this, a statue of Christ. And if you can just imagine, now again, this is kind of a stretch, and this is why I want you to kind of imagine this. Doctors are men who heal. So this is kind of the stretch. Have some fun with this. He's a man that heals. He's a Helaman, is a doctor, right? He's a man who heals a man, right? He's a Helaman. And so if you can imagine these 5, right, Helaman 5, building this Christus statue, right? So here's the rhyme. At Helaman chapter 5, build on Christ and thrive. All right, if you go just around the corner, that's the area where the teachers usually will prepare the sacrament. And this next one will make a little bit more sense if I just read it. This is, again, found in 3 Nephi 11, the famous chapter. And it says, "I am Jesus Christ, whom the prophets testified shall come into the world. And behold, I am the light and the life of the world, and I have drunk out of that bitter cup which the Father has given to me." So if you think about that cup, and think about maybe even the sacrament cups where they would put the cups in the trays and prepare them for sacrament meeting. And so this next one is 3 Nephi chapter 11, and the rhyme is, "Christ suffered the will of heaven." If you could think about everything that you were doing as you partake the sacrament or even prepare the sacrament, that is what you are remembering, is that he had come and he had suffered for the will of heaven. Now, if you can just imagine walking into that room just for a second and just reverently think about maybe seeing 2 crosses in there and putting those together, making the number 11 to remind you that we have 3 Nephites now preparing the sacrament, and there's the number 11 there in there as well. So 3 Nephi chapter 11, Christ suffered the will of heaven. All right, now you're going to go into the sacrament room, the sacrament meeting there, and find a seat. And you're going to notice up on the where the sacrament trays are that there are 3 Nephites that will be blessing the sacrament. And if you can just imagine that on every tray that there are 12 pieces of bread and there are 12 cups of water. And so 12, of course. So we have 3 Nephites blessing the sacrament, and 12, of course, is our chapter. So 3 Nephi chapter 12. Now, why did we partake of the sacrament? Of course, our whole goal is to perfect ourselves. And so if you can just kind of think of that, this is kind of a stretch with a rhyme, but I think this will help know that, hey, you are taking the sacrament to remember him, of course, but ultimately it's to perfect yourself. So here it is, 3 Nephi chapter 12, "With Christ perfect myself." All right, so as you move across the platform or the stage up there, you're just about ready to begin sacrament meeting, and you notice that instead of the bishopric there are actually 3 full-time missionaries that are up there. Now, of course, this will help with the 3 Nephi, so we know that it's 3 Nephi. And missionaries, because they all went out when they were 18, or at least that's kind of the assumption here, right? So that we're just going to, for the sake of what we're doing, we're going to pretend that they're all 18-year-olds. So 3 Nephi 18. Now, this one, again, is a complete stretch, so you have to go with me on this. Now, this one is about always watching, always praying. And so I thought, who better to represent this than Ross from Munsters, Inc. Remember her saying where she would always say, always watching, right? And you can just imagine her getting up and speaking at this sacrament meeting, right? She's got her whatever, and she get up there and says, always watching, always praying, and just kind of that's really what this scripture is about, always watching and always praying. So if you can just remember, we've got our 3 Nephites, our missionaries, so 3 Nephi 18, and then Ross gets up there and says, always watch. So it doesn't really rhyme, but that's kind of that's what we're going to use for our rhyme, right? Always watching, always praying.